What's up, guys? It is Rick, just Rick this time, and I wanted to give you guys an update on the old RallySport. That was our GC8. So this is in response to being on Dewey's podcast, and I figure I should start making some videos. So let me show you what I'm working on. So originally this had the 1 liter, basically 2 pistons, 2 rods removed, EJ20 or EJ 1.0. Made it to a 444 5-speed transmission and drivetrain, and we've got the old block here. I could show you what happened to the, essentially the death of it. This was engine number the first. Sucked, dropped a valve, basically munched the engine. This was engine number 2. No catastrophic failure, but I think what had happened was during the destruction of this, probably, some debris went up into the intake manifold. It was never cleaned out and just left a lot of scoring there on, basically the crown of the piston and ruined it, right? So what was included in that 1 liter was obviously 2 of these long rods. These are Manley I-beams. And then IAG was nice enough to give me the spares for those as well. And then a buddy of mine reached out. One buddy first, Craig Fisher, huge shout out, hooked me up with a free set of really nice condition D25 single AVCS heads. So that's what I'll be using in conjunction with my buddy Brody Hamblin. Hooked me up with this old Cosworth short block. This was actually in Biggie's car, if you remember the, off-road Forester. I think we made like 400 and something will on this engine, and he took it out because I think he thought it was a rod knock or something. Basically, it was making some noise. Come to find out, it was just a tiny bit of debris rattling around on the top of the piston. This isn't the piston that was affected. I think it was number 1, but you can see, Cosworth piston in good shape. This is factory bore, so they didn't even bore this out. So where I'm at right now with this whole thing, the whole reason I started this video, at least in regards to the engine, is I wanted to show you guys, basically what I've been doing. And so originally I ordered some standard HX bearings, so a little bit additional oil clearance, but we got a little bit more than we wanted here on the rods. So I'd like to be closer to, 2,000ths instead of 3,000ths. And so I also got a set of, just standards, and then the mains came in too, which are just standards as well. And then we've got that in conjunction with a 2.0 crank out of the wife's WRX. And we've got all of our rods here, which is great. So one thing I noticed when I pulled the IAG engine apart, and let's see, nope, those are not them, that's one. No, obviously, well, here, let me show you these. I don't think these are rod bearings, but so you've got an HX on one side and then just a standard. So I know people are against, the turtle in a half shell type game, where basically you run 1 standard, 1 additional. That would in theory give us like 0025 or somewhere in that range, but I think we'll probably stick closer to trying to be around that 2000s mark. So I don't think I'm going to play that game. But I noticed also on the block itself, on the mains, that's where I got that guy from, they did the same thing. So standard on one side and the additional oil clearance on the other. Anyway, so that's the plan. I think today what I'll end up doing is swapping out. So these are the additional oil clearance boys that got us this, how I got that number. So we're all pretty close on the rods on that 2.0 crank to that 2.0470 mark. So I set that up as the gauge here, clamped it in the vise, zeroed in the bore gauge, and I'm basically just going on off that. And then any one that are slightly different, those two, I'm just doing the math to get that number. So I think that's a pretty good way of going about it. I think that's close enough. And I did weigh all the rods, but I'm not really too worried because I don't have a way to measure the small end versus the big end. And honestly, they're all pretty much right on that. And then piston weight, I did have written down somewhere, but I'm not going to find it right now. But those are all pretty close as well. One thing I do need to do, so the piston to wall clearance is fine. I'm not going to bore this out any or even hone it. I think, you know, everything looks good enough. The only problem on this, and I will deck the heads and the block. That's going to be hard to show up on camera. You got those little guys right there. So that probably just happened sitting in storage. Nothing to complain about. The actual, you know, surface levelness looks great using the machinist rule or whatever you do. And so, yeah, I can give you an update, I guess, on the rest of the car. So I put in stainless steel fire suppression lines. They used to be just a rubber. I like the idea of a hard line. We've got that through an AN bulkhead there, going, you know, basically in this cowl, and then you can see where it goes through there. And then this is going to be super dark in here, so you're not going to be able to see it, but basically it runs in there. So I've got one basically pointed at my crotch, and I'll secure that up a little bit better. And then two in the engine bay, and that's attached to this 10-pound expired bottle. So if I want to do any probably actual competition in this, which I don't know if I do, I'll have to replace that. I'm probably going to replace that anyway. The idea on this car is just to be, you know, have it be safe, have people be able to jump in, drive it with a relatively high level of safety. I was able to get that CD7 dash mounted. It's the AM CD7 non-GPS. So I think I bought a GPS gauge, if I remember correctly, because I don't have any ABS tone rings to take speed off of. I do have, you can tap into the transmission, of course, which I will do. And then as per recommendations of Dewey, not directly to me, but just on his podcast, I did go buy an MK60 ABS, non-M3 ABS unit. There's some really good write-ups on how to wire that in. But eventually this will turn into a 6-speed, not by choice, but just by necessity. Once that time comes, I'll try to figure out how to, you know, basically get this hooked up so we have proper ABS. Again, kind of a safety thing, right? Still running the vacuum assist. I won't be running it into the, plumbing it into the intake manifold, which I guess I could now, but the cams on that engine, on the 1.0, were pretty big, so we didn't make a ton of vacuum. And so I actually have a electric vacuum assist, essentially, that I'll wire inside. I don't know, what else? This is not my favorite seat, the Sparco. Just visibility with, you know, the head restraint there. I know it's safe, but it also makes getting out of the vehicle quite a bit more difficult. So I want to order a quick release for the steering wheel there. And I did hook up the e-brake. So now we have functional e-brakes because I had nothing before. Chassis-wise, everything's pretty close. I do need to weld up some holes in the firewall. I think I'll just blank all those. You know, basically cut out some metal, plug them, and then if I need to drill them back out for the wiring harness, we'll do that. Wiring harness wise, so I'm just going to build it from scratch. I've got all my OE connectors all labeled there, all fresh, new, except for the alternator one. I could probably order that one new, but that shouldn't matter too much. Then I've got a bunch of random gaskets. I do need to order head gaskets for the new engine. What else? I don't think we've got too much going on here, just a bunch of random stuff, right? But sensor-wise, I'm still kind of collecting some sensors. So we've got plenty of, I don't know what sensor that is. That's great. I'm not going to go over all this, just a bunch of sensors. I'm going to sell this guy that combo pressure sensor. I ended up picking up this one used, which is great. Supposedly better, doesn't leak. We're running exhaust manifold, or well, let's call it just exhaust pressure. Crankcase pressure. I will be running coolant pressure and temp, obviously oil pressure temp, fuel pressure temp. And then I think just for budget reasons, I'll be running them through these HD 30 connectors. I just need to figure out where everything's going to be now with things changing, you know, getting rid of AVCS, well, at least one side, or, you know, exhaust AVCS. Things are going to change up a little bit, and then just finalizing where everything's going to be. We got some, you know, battery disconnects. They sent me too many, so I've actually been giving these out to buddies who need them. And these little studs are pretty rad. That's just a M6 by 10 thread, so you can thread it into, works on this Braille battery. And then, you know, your basically rad blocks just clip in there. So that'll be pretty slick once it's all said and done. I bought an AM trim pot switch. One thing that's a bummer about this is we had on this car originally, we had the AM 4-channel wideband, the 22 sensor CAN module, and the 8-channel EGT. All of those are gone. They were probably borrowed by somebody, maybe for, you know, whatever. All that's left is just the harness from that 4-channel wideband, which is kind of a bummer. But I did get, or no, I'm still looking for like I'd love to run an NTK sensor and just plumb it in via analog to the ECU. Oh, speaking of ECU, it's the wrong drawer. AM Infinity ECU, the 80 whatever 7 series, I don't know. And then we've got still rocking the Tomei turbo, which I think will be fine for a while. It was one problem on it was they didn't have the CHRA V-band bolted down 100%, so this exhaust wheel would actually hit on the turbine side. And then I don't know, this Killer B AIG looks like Killer B. I said AIG, that's horrible. And then I'm trying to trade these cams. These are the Kelford 272s for a set of 264s in single AVCS. So these are quad AVCS 272s. I just think they're going to be way too big for what I want to run. So that's kind of the plan with that. I'm wondering if there's anything else I should cover. Need to sell the wheels and buy something, you know, a 16 or 17 or whatever I can find, like 245 tire or something like that. But those are genuine T37 gravel specs. So to the right buyer, I should probably be able to get a decent amount for it. This is the car as it sits and as it's been sitting for a while. Just kind of all in pieces. The engine was kind of a surprise because originally my plan was to build the harness, and so I had been prepping for, you know, harness build, and I basically thought I had everything I was needing to build the harness. That's that GPS gauge all in here, you know, getting everything I think I'm going to need. And then one day I decided to, you know, put a bore scope in that 1.0 engine and discovered all the cylinder wall damage. So kind of a bummer, but it happens. But the problem being is it just, you know, takes up a lot of room in the garage. So now I've got spare blocks and, you know, spare intake manifold. And I guess that's the other change too, running the old NA, you know, large long runner manifold, and I need to figure out how to adapt my fuel rails to that. No big deal. That's all the old 1.0 parts, which I'll be reusing because everything had, you know, we'll call it a couple hours on the engine. So everything's still in really good condition there. And yeah, that's about it. Anyway, so let's go ahead and get these caps off, swap out the bearings, we'll measure them, and we'll see where we're at. All right, so we got the rod split. Okay, that's the HX bearing. And then I got these cleaned up. These are the standards. So what we'll do, go ahead and pop these guys out. Pop. Oh, actually, we should clean that real quick. Hold on. Sweeten this. Up real nice. Looks good. Looks good. It's hard to do this one-handed. Like that. Hey, buddy.
We have to do room bolts because my motor wasn't working, which means no motor stuff. My fan was a motor thing.
We have to do what?
So my motor wasn't working.
Mm-hmm.
I changed this battery.
Was the switch working?
Yeah. All right, are you ready? See what we can do.
Okay, let's do it.
We should go get our boards since we're going to make a pool for our boat.
Okie
I
dokie,
do
Betty.
have balloons in there. The kit did come with balloons. It has everything that we need for them. So yeah. Oh, we still can. I've done the motorboat before, but I haven't done I did not know there was a blue boat in there. I want to go get my boots and then get your boards.
All right. Was the shop manager there? Now these just want to make sure your tang is on the same direction. So click, click, like that. Make sure you got some ARP lube or Manly lube. They have torque specifications on both of those. I can't remember what we were set up on. 55 pounds. I know you should use a rod stretch gauge. I don't have one of those. So let's get this in my ultra high-end industrial vise, and we'll get these things torqued down. Did I mention it's a real high-end vise? Yeah. So anyway, let's kind of inch these down. I might have to reposition that rod because it's going to want to spin on the table. But we'll figure that out once we get there. I just feel like this is going to rip the vise off this table. The table makes very concerning noises. Just try to inch these in a little bit more. There. There. Alright, kind of just got my phone propped up, so I hope it catches this. But, so we've got our standard rods in. Just going to, I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see this. One of us has to be able to see this, and that one is me. But we will, we're at, oh yeah. Sixteen. And I suppose I should let you guys see that. It's gonna be the easiest way here. Like that. Just letting that sweep. It's very difficult to hold this like this, but should just be right on 16. So maybe what we'll do on this one, we'll do a standard on one side, an HX on the other, and let's see what that gets us. So anyway, I'm gonna repeat that for all 4 rods until we're happy again, trying to get closer to that 2,000ths instead of 16 thousandths, I guess. Kids are doing stuff. So I'll just go ahead and repeat that, and then after that, the next step will be doing the mains. And I've got these measured out already. I'll probably do it again. And then with the standards here, I didn't know you could buy these in an HX, but I guess I'm not surprised. I should go on ACL's website and just make sure. But if we can't get where we want with these, we'll get a set of HXs, I suppose. What's up, dude? Anyway, thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions on this car, let me know, and I'd be happy to answer them. I'm sure I didn't cover a lot. You should also go check out Dewey's podcast, the IAG Thursday thing, which he does every Thursday, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I actually had a blast on that. That was a lot of super fun, but now I'm trying to do videos just to show you guys, keep you up to date on what's going on, get a glimpse into my crazy life with these crazy kids, and see you guys on the next one.